Discover the sinister truth behind 12 haunted souls in this spine-chilling 2025 horror exclusive. Sarah never meant to stay up late on those restless nights. But the quiet of Maplewood was pitifully welcoming when she got off her shifts at the hospital. The pale street lamps flickered ominously, casting shadows that danced like specters on the sidewalks. But tonight felt different. Tonight, an unsettling chill wrapped around her spine as she eyed strange symbols etched into the concrete, twisting patterns that seemed to whisper secrets of desperate souls. It was like the town itself had a pulse, a dark thrum beneath the idyllic surface. Once a bright neighborhood of laughter, Maplewood grew dense and suffocating as disappearances haunted its pristine streets. Families once barbecued together on shaded porches. Yet now they clutched their children tighter, exchanging worried glances. Even Mr. Thompson, the jovial old man running the community center, wore an unsettling mask of cheer. His eyes gleamed with something darker as Sarah pulled into her driveway, her heart beat heavy with anxiety. Thoughts of her children, Lucas and Mia, played in her mind like an old film. The collective fear of the neighborhood trickled into her thoughts, amplifying the panic that wrapped around her each night. She pushed the dread aside. She had to keep her focus to provide for her kids. Yet, shadows loomed larger as she caught her breath. One fateful evening, after a seemingly innocent gathering at the community center, the unfathomable happened. Lucas went missing. The sun vanished over the horizon, leaving only an ominous twilight, and panic knotted in Sarah's chest. Lucas! She screamed into the veil of silence that had fallen over the park, where laughter used to saturate the air. She ran, feet pounding against familiar grass now soaked in unease. Something shifted in the atmosphere around her. The friendly faces of her neighbors turned to mask-like features, their expressions distorted by dread. The park was empty, haunted by memories of joy long past. What was once a place of play now echoed with an eerie stillness as she retraced Lucas's last steps, her heart racing like a drum in her ears. She stumbled upon old newspaper clippings, yellowed and fragile, that revealed a history shrouded in shadows, tales of 12 souls that vanished under spectral circumstances. Each symbol on the sidewalk glared back at her, screaming a warning she had once dismissed. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Shivering against the growing dread, she found herself confronting the darkness lurking beyond the friendly exterior of Maplewood. Mr. Thompson loomed before her, his smile a twisted relic of benevolence, his presence suffocating. Shadows danced around him, whispering secrets she wasn't prepared to hear. It dawned on her that the very community she had trusted was bound by an insidious pact, ready to trap anyone who dared uncover their hidden truths. With racing heart and cold sweat cascading down her back, she realized the enemy wore a neighbor's face, and she would have to fight through the web of deceit to save her son from the clutches of a darkness that preyed upon innocence, revealing that sometimes trust can lead you to the very heart of terror. Suddenly, laughter pierced the air, a familiar sound, twisted and gleeful. It was Lucas. The echo sat heavy in the air, petrifying her just as much as the dread that now filled the once happy streets. The shadows closed in tighter, and she could feel the hunt beginning. A final confrontation loomed ahead. Would she risk everything to expose the truth? Would her love be enough to face the chilling horrors hidden beneath the mask of her suburban haven? The laughter faded, swallowed by the earthy silence, but Sarah felt every echo was a knife twisting in her gut. She spun around, eyes darting to every corner of the park, a twisted labyrinth of shadows and darkened paths. What if Lucas was here, hiding? What if... Lucas, she called again, her voice rising high, desperation spilling from her lips. There was movement, a rustle in the dense thicket behind the swings. Hope surged, but dread slithered alongside it, wrapping around her throat. She stepped forward, heart hammering, and the whispers grew louder as she neared. But the bushes were empty. A chill crept through her bones as realization hit this darkness wasn't just lurking. It thrived in the absence of light, in the lull of laughter that pervaded her memories of happier times. Just like the 12 souls before Lucas, she feared he had become yet another whisper in the night. A figure parted the shadows, stepping into the flickering light from a nearby lamppost. It was Mr. Thompson, his grin more grotesque than ever. "Looking for someone, Sarah?" His eyes glinted like shards of ice, filled with something predatory. She recoiled instinctively, raising her hands in a futile gesture of defense. "Where's my son?" she demanded, her voice trembling yet fierce, enforcing an urgency that burned like acid in her gut. "Your son," he mused, as if cherishing the taste of her agony. "There's a price to pay to uncover secrets in Maplewood. You'd like to learn the truth, but the truth often leads to shadows." His words didn't register the way they should have. All she could feel was the dread creeping into her bones, mistaking it for a realization that steeped her in fear. "What have you done to him?" A chuckle escaped his lips, dark and filled with malice. "Why, nothing yet. But many have come before you, searching for what was lost. Sometimes it's better to let the past lie. Wouldn't you agree?" Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes. She couldn't let him twist her emotions. "No, I will find him. You can't keep hiding the truth." "Allah, but the truth is a fickle thing," he interrupted, his facade cracking ever so slightly. "What if the truth unveils something you're not prepared to handle? What if it leads you to darker places?" With that, he took a step back, retreating into the embrace of shadows, the sinister symbols on the ground pulsating beneath their weight. Her heart raced, mind spinning. Each moment spun out of control, a twisted game with no rules. She needed to seek answers, to peel away the layers of deceit strangling Maplewood. But the fear began to solidify, settling deep inside her. How far would she go? Was it worth delving deeper and risking everything? A screeching cry broke through her thoughts, echoing from somewhere in the distance, a childish scream. The panic surged within her once more. She couldn't falter. Steeling herself, she sprinted towards the sound, propelled by instinct and fear. Sarah raced past her neighbors' houses, each facade now a mask hiding terrifying secrets. What if they were all involved? What if each door she crossed led her deeper into a web from which no one escaped? But then, another laugh floated through the air, familiar, taunting. "Mommy! Lucas!" she screamed, her voice raw as she bolted towards the abandoned playground. Something sinister shimmered in the darkness, a flickering light. Would she find him, or descend into the same darkness that claimed those 12 before her? The air grew thick with uncertainty as she approached the glowing aura, ready to confront whatever terror awaited her. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. She wouldn't stop until she confronted whatever fate awaited her and her son, even if it meant unleashing a darkness whose grip was already tightening. What awaited her in the shadows was the question she dared not ask, but would have to answer soon. The flickering light pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing Sarah closer, filling her with equal parts dread and determination. With every step, the ground seemed to whisper beneath her feet, gravel crunching like bones. "Lucas!" she called again, her voice a strangled plea swallowed by the heavy night air. The laughter that had echoed moments before now felt like a cruel taunt. She had to keep moving, had to find him. As she neared the playground, shadows curled around the swings, twisting and writhing as if alive. A chill crept down her spine. What if Mr. Thompson's words were true? What if the truth would uncover horrors she wasn't ready to face? But there was no choice now. A figure darted past her peripheral vision, and her breath hitched. She spun around, squinting into the darkness. Nothing but the empty park stared back. "Lucas!" The name hung in the air, brittle and strained. Each shout made her feel smaller, more exposed. Then, the flickering light flickered again, revealing the disheveled frame of an old merry-go-round, its metal rusted and creaking like the whispers of the past. Poorly painted horses loomed ominously, their expressions twisted in frozen screams. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed, and the merry-go-round began to spin a slow, ghastly motion as if something beneath it stirred to life. Sarah's heart raced, fueling her terror as she narrowed her focus on the dim outlines cloaked in the darkness. "Lucas!" Another scream erupted from the shadows, this time far more urgent, agonizing. It shot through her like a piercing arrow. The familiar cry sent waves of adrenaline surging through her veins. She sprinted toward the sound, ignoring the gnawing doubt that prickled at her thoughts. "Mommy!" The voice was unmistakable, the high-pitched tone laced with fear tearing through her resolve. Chasing the cry, she didn't see the figure approaching until it was too late. A dark shadow loomed from her side. She barely had time to react as icy fingers wrapped around her arm with a vice grip. "Let me go!" she shrieked, clawing at the hand, but it only tightened. She stared into the face of a woman, her features obscured by the shadows. The woman's eyes glimmered like shards of broken glass. "You shouldn't be here," she hissed, her breath a foul mix of smoke and something rotten. "Leave now while you still can." Panic gripped Sarah, her heart pounding against her chest. "I'm looking for my son." The woman's grin was grotesque, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp, too eager. "Your son is trapped in a nightmare you cannot comprehend. You cannot save him." Fury surged through Sarah. "I want to abandon him," she yelled, shaking off the woman's grip and stumbling backward. She turned, ready to charge deeper into the playground. But the figure was suddenly gone, vanished into the shadows, as if she never existed. Breathless and shaken, Sarah gazed around. Everywhere she looked, shadows danced and whispered, a menacing symphony of threat. The merry-go-round spun faster now, surrounded by a hole of darkness that felt alive, beckoning her. "Lucas!" With every shout, fear clawed at her insides. The piercing feeling of dread coiled tighter. Was she losing her sanity? Or was Maplewood truly bending the fabric of reality around her? Then a chilling echo rang out a cruel mockery, repeating her son's name. "Lucas, Lucas!" It wasn't he just in her head. Something was toying with her, lurking just outside the edge of light, waiting for her to step further into the dark with renewed desperation. She took a deep breath and entered the inky depths ahead, each step heavier than the last, with shadows swarming her, eager to take her along. What had Maplewood become? Would she ever find her son? Or would she succumb to the same fate as those before her? The darkness pulsed around her, a living entity drawing her deeper into its embrace. In the depths of her fear, the question remained burning. Would she unearth secrets that could shatter her very being, or would she pay the ultimate price for the truth? The air thickened around Sarah as she plunged deeper into the darkened playground. The shadows loomed larger, swirling like smoke tendrils, making it hard for her to discern shapes or purpose. Each breath felt harder to draw, as if the darkness had weight. "Lucas!" she cried, fear and desperation weaving through her voice. But the very night seemed to suffocate the sound, swallowing it whole without a trace. The merry-go-round's spinning slowed to a ghostly crawl. Suddenly, the horses' painted bodies glowed, spectral light illuminating their twisted faces momentarily. Their eyes gleamed with hollow hunger, an invitation or a warning. She couldn't tell. The faint echo of Lucas's name lingered in the air. The chill ran deep, settling in her bones. Was he close? Or was it just another trick of this malicious place? Each step further into the playground made her heart race faster. She could hear it now, distinctly, a soft tapping sound, like nails on wood. It was rhythmic, almost comforting, in a twisted way. She strained to listen, her hand instinctively reaching out to brush against the old swings swaying slightly, as if remembering past lives. "Mommy!" The voice came again, weaker this time. Terrified, she sprinted toward it. "Lucas!" she screamed, panic clawing at her throat. Then came the laughter, a horrible, wheezing cackle that reverberated around her, bouncing off unseen walls, distorting until it morphed into something monstrous. It twisted her insides. The laughter faded, replaced by soft whimpering, echoing from somewhere, pulling her like a dark puppeteer. "Mommy, I'm scared, Lucas!" Her voice broke, tearing through the suffocating darkness. She felt disoriented, every direction blending into the other. Was it the air? The shadows? A rustle caught her attention. She turned just in time to see something dark behind the slide, a fleeting glimpse of a small figure. Her heart leaped, but doubt swiftly followed. No, it can't be. She sprinted toward the slide. All around her, laughter bubbled up, mocking her fervor. Shadows swarmed, thickening until they became a barrier. Panic surged, clawing at her chest. She dove behind the slide. Nothing. Only darkness. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, forcing back the sense of desperation that gnawed at her sanity. She steadied her breath, hissing through clenched teeth, then opened her eyes wide, scanning the area. Lucas, she whispered. Beneath her feet, the ground trembled, vibrating like the humming of a distant warning siren. The merry-go-round spun faster now, rattling and screeching, as if it drummed the heartbeat of the earth. Then she saw it, a small hand emerging from the shadows, fingertips pressing against the dust. Mommy! Lucas! She sprang forward, gripping the young hand that was reaching, ready to pull him from the abyss. But as she grasped it, the grip felt wrong, cold and clammy, like a dead fish. Her breath hitched as she looked down. Only an outstretched claw, pale as bone. The hand was shriveled, disconnected from a body, writhing back into the darkness from whence it came. Shadows laughed, cackling in cruel delight as they pulled it away, leaving her clutching air. Mommy! The voice had transformed into a wail that sliced through her heart like a dagger. Suddenly, a wall of darkness surged toward her, almost pressing in. Sarah staggered backward, horrified and trapped. The entire playground twisted and shifted, reality becoming a grotesque nightmare with no exit. Enough games. She screamed at the darkness. Where is my son? The shadows paused as if considering, then shifted again, revealing a twisted face that slithered closer, its mouth grinning wide, eyes glowing with malice. Do you wish to play? It whispered, its voice slinking around her like smoke, agonizingly sweet. The playground began to warp beyond recognition, as her grip on sanity slipped further and further away. The laughter rose again, drowning out her thoughts, melding despair and dread. Desperate, she turned, heading toward the heart of the dark whirlpool, ready to face whatever waited. But deep down, a question bubbled to the surface. What if the truth was darker than she could ever imagine? With every step, the shadows swelled, fortifying their bond. And as Sarah plunged headfirst into the crushing void, she wondered, would she emerge a savior or merely another lost soul? Sarah felt the world around her twist further into an abyss where sounds morphed into something otherworldly. The ground beneath her feet pulsed, the rhythm of her heartbeat echoing back from the depths. She pressed onward, regardless of the terror that threatened to engulf her. The name Lucas a desperate mantra on her lips. Lucas! She gasped, her throat dry, each yell a prayer that might shake the dark tendrils holding him captive. The shadows thickened, dancing erratically like malevolent spirits at a macabre festival. Yet amidst the darkness, a flicker caught her eye, a flash of movement darting behind the rusted swings. She leaped toward it, driven by instinct. There had to be something, someone, anything that would guide her back to her son. Then came a guttural whisper, slithering past her like a serpent. He is near. So very near. Who are you? She cried out, but the answer was stifled, replaced by staccato laughter that gripped her heart. As she reached the swings, they creaked eerily, as if alive. The faded paint peeled back, revealing grotesque faces and mocking grins. Each swing held a ghost, specters of lost children, desperate and sorrowful. Their eyes glistened with unshed tears, and their whispers filled the air, warning of the darkness that had claimed them. Get away, she screamed, fear pouring into every word, grounding her in the terror of her mission. But fear only thickened the shadows, clawed at her feet, anchoring her to the spot. Mommy, the voice came again, clearer, pained, and so close it felt as if Lucas was right behind her, just out of reach. She turned, heart racing, only to find empty in that instant of vulnerability. Cold fingers wrapped around her ankle. She screamed, thrashing against the grasp, the shadows spiraling up her body. Join us. Never leave. Each word dripped with venomous allure. Lucas, she wailed, gripping the chains of the swing set, the metal biting into her palms like a lifeline. But the laughter surged, louder and more erratic, an entire chorus of lost souls reveling in her despair. She fought against the shadows tightening around her, tugging at her sanity. Vision blurring, she felt the ground pull her down, the merry-go-round spinning into a maelstrom of colors and cries. The spirits hovered, their faces morphing into grotesque masks, begging for salvation while threatening to drag her under. With a final, desperate push, Sarah yanked herself free from the ghostly fingers, sending her stumbling into the heart of the playground. Just as she steadied herself, she spotted a flicker of light flickering across the pavement. An invitation? A trap? Lucas! She shouted again, her voice raw, melting into the cacophony of sounds surrounding her. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown, urgency flooding her veins. Sarah dashed toward the light, but as she did, she tripped over something buried in the ground, an old toy. Its once cheery colors were dulled by time, a lonely reminder of innocence lost. She grabbed it instinctively, but her hand recoiled as a shock of cold energy surged through her. From the depths, a whisper rose, dark and sultry. You found one of us, now you must decide. What do you mean? She demanded, panic lacing her words. Where is my son? The bargain of souls, came the answer, echoing from shadows thick with history and sorrow. Save him, or save yourself. A chill snaked down her spine. What kind of choice was this? With a shake of her head, she pushed forward, determination blazing within her. I will save him. She didn't care if it meant facing the horrors that awaited. Yet, as she stumbled forward, the playground shifted around her like a living beast, the air thick with malevolence. If there was a way to save Lucas, the shadows knew it so close. Yet so far, a face loomed before her, a childish face twisted with malevolence. Will you play with us? The laughter crescendoed, a sinister undertone wrapping around her, squeezing her heart tightly. And in that moment, reality splintered. As Sarah realized that the playground held more than her son. It guarded secrets that had been buried long ago, visions of lost innocence lurking just beneath the surface. Step closer and find the truth. As she stood there, caught in the swirl of light and darkness, she understood the game had only just begun. Would she unravel the nightmare, or become a piece of the twisted puzzle? But time was slipping, and Lucas was waiting. And with a final scream, she stepped into the shimmering malevolence, daring to confront the malevolence within. The moment Sarah crossed the threshold of shimmering darkness, the world around her shattered. Tendrils of shadow snagged at her feet, pulling her into a swirling void of despair. She gasped as she felt the weight of countless eyes boring into her, a roiling sea of lost souls echoing her frozen heartbeat. Lucas! She grasped the air desperately, her voice swallowed by the cacophony around her. The laughter of children twisted into sinister echoes, the melodic tones now jarring and cruel. Shapes began to emerge from the shadows, phantoms gliding through the gloom, their faces contorted in expressions of anguish and malice. You've come to play, one of them sneered, a boy not much older than Lucas. His eyes glinted with a manic light, and his smile was a gaping maw of unsettling delight. Where are the others? Sarah croaked, fear clawing at her throat. Where's Lucas? Join us, the boy hissed, extending a bony hand. He's been waiting against her resolve. She felt an inexplicable pull toward him, a dark curiosity mingling with dread. She tried to turn away, but the shadows tightened around her, murmuring in a chorus that sent chills down her spine. They tugged at her spirit, offering promises of clarity hidden within darkness. Your son is here, safe. In a game, the boy's voice trailed off, his grin widening. But the price is steep. Will you pay? What do you want from me? Her voice cracked as violent shudders pulsed through her limbs. Only a piece of your soul, he said, twirling with delight. You can save him if you dare. Enough! Sarah shouted, desperation infusing her voice with strength. The playground was alive, a labyrinth of twisted slides that spiraled downward into a dark pit, each corner whispering secrets of despair. I'll never give up on him. Yet their laughter crescendoed, the sound thickening the air like a miasma. With trembling hands, she reached for the toy she had instinctively clutched, a small, faded action figure. It pulsed in her grip as if it were a heartbeat, an echo of the child that once held it. Was it a talisman or a curse? A cold breeze swept through, carrying the scent of decay and long-forgotten dreams. Swallowed by panic, Sarah sprinted toward the nearest slide, each step resonating with echoes of trapped children begging for freedom. Run! Came the voices, rising to a fever pitch. Run before it's too late. She climbed up the warped steps and peered down the slide, its dark maw yawning voraciously. Adrenaline sparked through her veins. Were the shadows feeding on fear? Was it the only way out of here? Could she bring Lucas with her? Are you ready? The boy's voice purred from behind, slinking closer. You can't escape. You'll only prolong the inevitable. Sweat dripped down her back as the shadows reached out, caressing her furiously. They flickered and writhed like snakes, whispering unsettling promises. Time was slipping through her fingers. Lucas might already be engulfed in the darkness. Without thinking, Sarah leaped into the slide. But the moment she screamed, the air transformed into a churning tempest, swirling reality around her. The sounds of the playground faded, replaced by wind howling through an endless abyss, a place where no light could ever penetrate. She was hurtling downward into oblivion, or perhaps into the heart of salvation, and just before it felt like she would crash into nothingness, a horrifying thought struck. What if Lucas was never meant to leave? Sinking terror gripped her as she plummeted deeper. Would the choice she made lead to salvation or damnation? Would she discover the truth that had haunted so many before her? As the shadows closed in around her, she knew a reckoning was coming. Somewhere, the laughter rose once more, hideously triumphant. A voice, sharp as glass, whispered in her ear, "Welcome to the game, Sarah." And then silence engulfed her. The slide spat her out, tossing her into a thrumming darkness that pressed against her skin, a visceral layer that felt alive. She hit solid ground, but not the familiar dirt of home. Instead, she landed on an expanse of cold, rotting wood that creaked underfoot. Her instincts screamed to move, to run, but fear glued her to the spot. Lucas! The name burst from her lips, a desperate wail swallowed up by the gloom. There was no answer, only the eerie echo of her voice bouncing back, mocking and hollow. Nothing looked familiar here. The landscape was a twisted mirror of the playground, warped beyond recognition. Shadows flickered in the corners of her eyes, darting away as she turned her head. They were watching, whispering, waiting. "Welcome to the game," came the boy's voice, now echoing from above, derived from deep inside the void. "You've got a score to settle." The shadows thickened, swirling around her like a fog of despair. Her heart raced, pounding in her chest like a begrudging drum echoing a death march. In front of her stood something grand yet grotesque. A towering structure made of rusted metal and shattered glass, parts glimmering obscenely under a ghostly light. "Are you ready to play?" The amusement in the boy's voice sliced through the tension, a cruel jester relishing in her fear. "I'm not here to play," Sarah shouted into the void, rage boiling under her terror. "I'm here to find my son." A shrill giggle erupted around her, echoing off the walls of the tower. "You'll find what you seek, but at a cost. All games have rules." The shadows seemed to swell and pulse, as if they heard something they liked to challenge. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she caught sight of movement. Figures drifted in and out of focus, more souls trapped within this miserable realm. Each one was burdened by sorrow, faces twisted in grief, hands reaching out but never able to touch her. Sarah clenched the action figure, the soft texture of plastic a grounding presence amidst the nightmare. Could it shield her from whatever malice lurked in this abyss? "Choose a path, Sarah." The boy's voice chimed, echoing from somewhere above. "Each door in the tower leads to a truth. But beware, not all truths are worth knowing." breath hitching in her throat, she scanned the options unfolding before her 3 dark archways, each marked by flickering shadows and whispers of despair. Which one held Lucas? Each door pulled at her, drawing her closer, a quiet invitation laced with danger. Don't waste time. Yes, running out of chances. The boy called, laughter fading into something more sinister. Silencing her doubts, she felt compelled to move, adrenaline spurring her feet into action. She took a step toward the left doorway, her heart racing in sync with the pounding echoes. But as she reached for the entrance, a sudden chill punctured the air. Stop! A voice wailed from behind. It was a girl, her form flickering like a candle in the wind, desperate eyes pleading. Don't go in there. The truth is, it'll change everything. For a split second, Sarah hesitated, her pulse quickening at the thought. What was waiting inside that darkness? What will it cost me? Sarah demanded, clutching the action figure tighter. The girl's expression turned grave, her lips quivering as the words slipped out. Your past, your choices, it will tear you apart, she whispered, fading away into the shadows. Sarah's eyes darted between the doors, the weight of her decisions heavier than ever. What truth awaited, and was she willing to sacrifice who she was to save Lucas? Dread coiled around her heart, tightening like a vice. With every second ticking away, she knew she had to choose. But as she steeled herself to step through the doorway, a spine-chilling laugh erupted from the tower above, reverberating through the air. Choose wisely, Sarah. The game has only just begun. And with that ominous warning echoing in her ears, everything faded into an unsettling quiet. What lay beyond the threshold? Would she find Lucas, or unleash something even more terrifying? The air thickened as Sarah hesitated, the shadowy figures around her shifting impatiently. Time seemed to freeze, a heavy weight settling in her stomach. Her heart hammered like a frantic prisoner, desperate to escape her chest. Each archway loomed before her, a doorway into the unknown, the promises whispered just beyond her grasp. Choose, Sarah. The taunting voice echoed, nearly a chant. Your choices define you. Shut up, she snapped, cutting through the air, her voice trembling. The sound of her anger felt futile, dissipating into the oppressive silence. A moment of panic gripped her. The girl's warning haunted her thoughts. Change her past? Tear her apart? The shadows curled in closer, sharpening at the edges like the talons of a predatory beast waiting for its moment. Desperation nudged her forward, tearing her mind away from fear. Lucas, please, just let him be safe, she whispered to herself, a mantra as she stepped toward the left doorway, drawn to the promise hidden beyond the veil of shadows as her hand brushed against the cool wood. The door began to creak open, revealing a narrow passage that whispered haunting secrets. A gust of wind rushed out, carrying with it a rancid scent of decay, making her retch. She hesitated once more, thoughts racing, but there was no time left. She had to choose. Inside, darkness engulfed her. It was different from the outside. The air stifled, heavy with lost hopes. The walls pulsed with an almost organic rhythm, as if the tower itself breathed. Welcome to the Chamber of Regrets, a voice whispered from all around, slithering around her like smoke. Here lies the truth of what you left behind. Sarah's feet barely moved, yet her surroundings shifted like a living painting, revealing flickering scenes of her life, a younger version of herself running through a sunlit park with Lucas, laughter bubbling up, an image now tinged with the bitterness of what once was. Suddenly, the scenes morphed, images of screaming arguments with her husband, the front door slamming, a frost settling where warmth once stood. In the back, a shadowy figure loomed, a distorted version of herself, darker and hollow. No, this is not how it happened, she protested. But her voice was lost amidst the cacophony of memories flooding her mind. The wall slithered again, urging her closer. A piercing pain shot through her chest. What are you? She gasped, fighting against the oppressive tide. Your truth, it cooed, laughter echoing like cracked glass. Embrace it or be consumed. Panic clawed through her, sharp and relentless. I don't want this, she screamed. The chamber pulsed, dark figures coiling outwards, shapes that blurred and swirled, mocking her pleas. Choose. Would you abandon your child for the sake of nostalgia? The shadow that mirrored her smirked, a twisted smile filled with malice. Sarah recoiled, realizing each image was a reflection of her choices and their consequences. Every decision had led her here, a labyrinth of pain. But she couldn't afford to drown in regret. Not now. With renewed resolve, she charged deeper into the darkness, searching for the remnants of hope. Perhaps she could pivot the truth, reshape it into something that could save Lucas. As she stumbled forward, the landscape behind her began to collapse, shadows screeching in rage. The path ahead formed into a new direction, a gleaming light flickering in the distance. Find it, Sarah. The boy's voice echoed anew, an imperious demand. But remember, what is lost may never be regained. She reached the edge of the light, anticipating its warmth, hoping for solace. Would it lead her to Lucas, or would it tear her apart for good? A sudden gust swept through the corridor, yanking her backward. The chamber slammed shut behind her, engulfing the light in darkness. Did you think it would be that easy? Echoed the mocking laughter, ricocheting like thunder. Her heart raced as dread clawed at her throat. What was coming next? Nothing felt certain now. With the boy's laughter still ringing in her ears, she braced herself for whatever lay on the other side of the darkness. Whatever it was, it would unveil yet another layer of terror. But would this time bring her closer to Lucas, or deeper into despair? As darkness engulfed her, Sarah felt the chill creep into her bones. The laughter faded momentarily, but the silence that replaced it was more terrifying. Footsteps echoed behind her, slow and deliberate, a sinister rhythm that made her skin crawl. She spun around, her heart pounding, but there was nothing there, just pitch-black shadows swirling like smoke. Show yourself, she demanded, though her voice quivered. The chamber of regrets morphed around her, the walls warping as if they were testing her resolve. A flicker of light, was that hope, or a cruel illusion? She took a cautious step forward, then another. Each move drew the darkness closer, the shadows whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. Every choice counts, a voice hissed from the depths. You'll see what you've chosen to forget. Each wisp of sound clawed at her sanity. Memories she had pushed aside now burst to the surface like a rancid boil. Friends she had lost touch with, the faces of loved ones she had wronged flickered in the corners of her vision, distorting into grotesque masks filled with resentment. Mistakes were made, weren't they? The voice retorted, echoing hauntings of the past. Did you think you could run and hide from them? No, she shouted, clutching her head as the memories suffocated her. She could feel the weight of their disappointment, taste the bitter tang of her regrets. With every heartbeat, they clawed at her resolve. How could she escape this? Was there any chance of saving Lucas if she couldn't confront her past? Gritting her teeth, she pressed on, determined. She would not let the past claim her soul. Behind every door was the shadow of another choice, luminous yet foreboding, radiant yet terrifying. The passage twisted before her, drawing her into a larger chamber, more spacious yet suffocatingly dark. A large mirror stood at the far end, its surface shimmering with an unsettling light. She approached it cautiously, heart pounding loud enough to drown out the whispers swirling through the air. As she neared, images began to coalesce in the glass. Lucas, his face alive with joy, laughter spilling as they played together. A sudden jolt of warmth flooded over her, but it was quickly snuffed out by the next scene, a teary-eyed Lucas, pleading for her attention. His small hands gripping her shirt as she shouted into the air, rage spilling from her. No, no, she gasped, pressing her palms against the cold surface, as if she could will the scene to change. But the glass rippled, molding her into what she feared most, transforming her movements into a ballet of conflicts, joy interspersed with anguish, resolution stained by abandonment. Is this what you want? The shadows cooed, surrounding her like a tightening noose. To remember the fragments that broke you? No. She pulled back, horrified, but the mirror warped, pulling in the frayed edges of her mind. And then there it was, an image so powerful it knocked the breath from her lungs. A figure shrouded in darkness, a cruel smile plastered on its face, the embodiment of every regret she ever thought she left behind. "I am the consequence of your choices," it hissed, "and I am here to collect." Panic gripped her throat, squeezing tighter until she could hardly breathe. "What do you want from me?" she cried, desperation washing over her like a cold tide. "Only what you owe," the voice sang, echoing sinisterly through the chamber. "Face it, embrace it, or I shall take everything you hold dear." Suddenly, a flicker of recognition launched into her mind. Lucas. If she didn't confront this darkness, she might lose him forever. She closed her eyes, shoving back against the tide of fear and regret. In that moment, clarity struck. She needed to face it, not just the darkness, but the truth beneath it. Striding toward the mirror, she steadied her breath. Whatever horrors awaited her there, she had to confront them, both for herself and for Lucas. But as she reached out to the mirror, the sinister figure shifted. The room began to tremble, and everything shattered into fragments of despair. "Are you prepared to take the plunge?" The voice taunted, edges sharp as knives. And just like that, she was falling again, hurtling toward something unknown. What awaited her at the bottom? Redemption or ruin? The answer was lost in the depths, but it raced closer with every heartbeat. When Sarah hit bottom, she tumbled into a realm that was all too familiar yet surreal. The playground she had known, now upside down, lay beneath her like a twisted memory. The merry-go-round spun wildly, but instead of laughter, haunting whispers filled the air. Each creak echoed with the voices of the missing, calling out, longing for release. "Lucas," her voice, raw and desperate, splattered against the darkness. "Where are you?" As she regained her footing, she felt the cool, damp ground under her fingers, the scent of moss and decay heavy in the air. Around her, shadows danced with intent, pulsating like a heartbeat eager to claim her sanity. Panic surged through her veins, but she steadied herself with the image of Lucas, the warmth of his embrace grounding her. "Face yourself," echoed the mocking voice of the boy. "Your son is close, but first, you must confront your greatest fear." With a shiver of resolve, she stepped forward, swallowing her dread. The shadows shifted, and the landscape morphed, revealing her past, the arguments, the blame, the times she had chosen herself over her child. Each image stung like hot needles driving into her heart. "Stop!" she screamed, but the scenes flourished, unrelenting. A memory bloomed before her open eyes. Lucas, small and innocent, watching her shout in frustration as she turned away from him. "Mommy, don't go," he had said, the sound still fresh with a child's pure terror. Sarah crumpled, sinking to her knees among the swirling darkness. Regret clawed at her, a solid weight she couldn't shake. Would she always be haunted by her failures? A heavier shadow reached out, wrapping around her throat, suffocating her enough. She choked out, fighting against the pressure. Memories stung, but now they propelled her forward. "That's not who I am." With each word, the shadows flickered, warping as if they felt the force of her determination. Her heart burned with longing. If she was to save Lucas, she had to sever the ties that bound her to this grief. "I don't want to hide anymore," she declared, standing up, her feet firm against the ground. "I will embrace my past. I will face my mistakes." The darkness recoiled, swirling back like a tempest, shrieking, but her voice rang strong. "Bring it on. I'm ready." As if struck by lightning, the shadowy figure lunged at her, its monstrous grin flashing with rage. "Your resolve means nothing," it hissed, darting closer, eyes glowing with a cruel light. But Sarah held fast, focusing on her memories of Lucas, the joyous laughter, the warmth of his cheek against hers, his small fingers wrapped around her own. Each recollection fortified her spirit, each piece of regret transformed into strength. "Where is he?" she shouted defiantly. "Show me. I am done with this charade." With a shattering roar, the figure imploded, scattering shadows everywhere. revealing a shimmering doorway woven from light. It called to her, warm and inviting. Choose your path, Sarah. Will you step into the light or remain in the dark? No more hiding, she proclaimed, racing toward the light, gripping the action figure tightly. With a deep breath, she crossed the threshold. Immediate warmth enveloped her as she plunged through, and she felt the gnawing darkness begin to lift. A world crystallized around her, the familiar playground, bathed in golden sunlight. Everything was back to normal. Grass tickled her feet, birds chirped overhead. But where was he? Lucas, she called, voice echoing across the colorful landscape. But silence greeted her. Then, just beyond the swings, she spotted a figure, a small silhouette hunched over. Her pulse quickened as she dashed toward him, heart racing like it was trying to break free. Lucas, she cried, arms outstretched. He turned at the sound, eyes wide, and then his face broke into a smile that shone with uncontained joy. Mommy, he shouted, and she wrapped him in a fierce embrace. In that moment, everything, the darkness, the torment, the regrets faded like nightmares at dawn. They held each other, a cocoon of warmth amidst the remnant shadows lying at bay. It's okay, Mom. I was scared, but I knew you would find me, he whispered, his small voice steadying her heart. Tears streamed down her face as she hugged him even tighter. I'm so sorry for everything. I'll never let anything come between us again. As they stood in the tender embrace, the shadows whipped away, leaving only sunlight glinting against the park's equipment. The past had buried its pain, but with it came the power to keep moving forward, a promise of hope clenched tightly between them. Hand in hand, they made their way toward the exit of the playground, ready to embrace the world beyond with renewed strength. As they stepped over the threshold together, the laughter of children echoed in the distance, and the sun bathed them in warmth, reminders that they were alive, and that their journey was just beginning. Everything was different now, because she had faced the darkness to find the light. And that day, they left the echoes of Maplewood behind. If you loved the journey Sarah undertook and the truth she had to face, then you need to subscribe to this channel immediately. Don't let another exclusive story slip past you. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and fill the comments section with your thoughts and theories on Sarah's journey. Truly, we want to hear from you. Also, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this riveting conclusion. Be a part of the story and support the channel today.